With FPL Nacho, and I'm here to answer any of your final questions going into this deadline. Now, of course, a little bit later than usual, no lunchtime kickoff. So if you're tuning in right now, do not panic. You haven't missed the usual 11 a.m. deadline, so you've still got time. We still got just under 2 hours until we have to lock in those teams. And for once, I feel like my team is actually locked in. Anybody that's been watching this stream for this season will know I've been panicking on pretty much every single stream that we have been doing, but after wildcarding in game week 10, I feel like my team is in a pretty good spot and more a case of actually having benching headaches rather than which transfers to make. So as always, let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. It'd be awesome to see where everybody is, and of course what your plans today. What is everybody up to in themselves? Usually I play football, but I am injured, which is so annoying, so I'll be watching the boys later on. Fingers crossed we get the win, but right now I am just going to be doing this up until the deadline pretty much, and obviously going up through my team, going through some of the numbers, some interesting graphics that we need to consider for captaincy. But JP, I can see is in the chat, loving fancy football is in the chat. Tor, Roy's tuning in from Durban, South Africa, my friend. Hope you're well. Van Dyke, hello, mate. Jackson for Slanky. We'll cover that in a minute. Fatboy Jim. Is it Rainier? Rainier, hope you're doing well. Samuel, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Ben. Guys, drop your stuff in the chat. We'll get some polls going as well in a minute and going through exactly what people should be doing with their teams, because captaincy this week is pretty damn big. I feel like there are some brilliant options available, and me with plenty of options like a Mo Salah, Son, even somebody differential like a Garnacho. I mean, I wouldn't go there, but there are plenty of good choices out there. So I think we should get into my team in a minute, but I'll just answer a few of the questions. JP, keep or sell Watkins? If sell, who to? Well, of course, it all depends on your horizon. If you're looking just for this one game week, it would be Dominic Solanke for that home fixture against Ipswich. But if you're looking a bit more long-term in selling someone like a Watkins, then I would be looking maybe towards someone like Alexander Isak, potentially. But I would say to you, what are you exactly wanting to do with Watkins? Because if it's the case of just you want him out, I really think you need to have a clear understanding of who you want to go to, because straight away in game week 12 onwards, you're going to want Watkins back in your team with those brilliant fixtures. So I would only sell Watkins if you have a clear plan in place of why you actually want to sell him, because I think he will come good eventually with these long-term fixtures. Palmer out, I've seen nothing. I have got the old trusty up, keeping an eye out for anything that might potentially drop. But we need to remember, with Chelsea playing on Sunday, I don't think we're really going to get any news between now and that deadline. And the big thing as well we need to note is that with Cole Palmer, no training as of right now that we know, but they play on Sunday. He's been named in the England squad. Now, I would have thought if he had an injury, there is no chance that Chelsea would have allowed him to go in that England squad. So that suggests to me that the injury is not bad. And I, for one, think he starts. Let me know in the chat if you think Cole Palmer is going to play or not. But let me put a poll in quickly to see what the general consensus is. Do you think Palmer starts? Yes. No. I personally think he starts, but there is no actual information behind that. It is just a case of, I think it's a situation where Chelsea know he's their most important player, and I think they are going to get him through the door. But let me know what your thoughts are there. Jackson for Solanke. So selling Jackson to go Dominic Solanke makes a lot of sense this week, but then game week 12 onwards, the fixtures completely switch, and Jackson looks incredible for the long term. So I think it's a transfer that looks great for this week, but not good for the long term. So it completely depends on how long you want that player in your team. But I do think Solanke is one of the top picks this week, and we will touch on some of the projections based on both Fantasy Football Fix, and for those that don't follow Rob T over on Twitter, he basically gets all the information from betting markets. And I always do think the betting markets is a little bit of an underrated tool, because bookies usually know what they're doing, and I think we can back them over the course of a season. So we'll take a look at some of those numbers as well. And of course, if you haven't already, guys, please do drop a like on the stream. Always massively appreciated. So people ask what my team is. I'll drop that on screens in a minute. Should I bench Rico Lewis? Now, there's a lot of split right now. A lot of people are saying because of the Matoma 1v1 element, Carl Walker is going to play. But end of the day, we saw Carl Walker this season. He is getting roasted by pretty much everybody. So I don't think there is a lock-in right now in terms of Rico Lewis starting or somebody like a Walker. I, for one, think that if you have Rico Lewis, I probably would start him and hope for the best because I don't know if it's worth a transfer out. But I do think, regardless, Rico Lewis is going to be a problem in your team for the foreseeable future. And I can see we've got a super chat here from Scott. Much appreciated, mate. Honestly, that is so generous. Morning. I have Raya, Lewis, Mazraoui, Robinson, and Nori, which is 8 Nori, of course, for those listening. Garnacho, Salah, Palmer, Vardy, Haaland, Wood. 1 free transfer, 1.5 spare. Benches Rodgers, Onana, which of course is the Aston Villa Onana, and I'm going to guess that's Harwood Bellis. So in terms of 1 free transfer, obviously the structure of your team right now is a Salah and Haaland team. So you obviously have a few players that you don't own. But when I look at it right now, do you need to make a goalkeeper transfer? Absolutely not, because Raya long-term is fantastic. You're playing a back 4. Mazraoui, I think his minutes are great, and I do think it is a good fixture for them. Robinson, I think he has the opportunity for attack and returns. 8 Nori is great. Rico Lewis, of course, is the doubt, but worst case scenario, Rodgers comes in for him if Rico Lewis gets 0 minutes. Garnacho, I think, is a little bit ropey this week, but not enough to sell him with that home fixture against Leicester. Salah, Palmer, great. Vardy fought this week. I am absolutely all over the shop right now. Leicester have got, let's remind myself, of course, against Man United, not a good fixture. Haaland and Wood. Okay, so this is all going to come down to what is your long-term perspective, Scott. So if it's a case of you're looking to actually sell one of the big hitters, whether it be Mo Salah or Erling Haaland in game week 12, then I think rolling the transfer is a sensible move. And the reason being is 2 free transfers will allow you to sell one of the big hitters and get to another player without any problems. However, if you're in a position right now where you actually think Haaland and Salah are going to remain in your team long term, then you actually can't really do a lot for your team alongside Cole Palmer. So then making these 1 transfers each and every week might actually pay dividends. So I think one thing you could consider is doing something like Jamie Vardy to one of either Cunha for the long-term Wolves fixtures, go into Chris Wood, you've already got Chris Wood, go to Cunha, go into Strand Larson as a bit more of a sideways move and keeping that money in the bank, or as I mentioned, going a bit differential and going for another Man United like a Højlund, but I wouldn't touch that. So Scott, let me know in the chat what your long-term plans are with Haaland and Salah, because that is going to depict what you do with this team. If you plan on holding both long-term, then I think you absolutely do a Vardy to a Cunha or a Strand Larson. Otherwise, roll the transfer and give yourself flexibility in the upcoming week in game week 12. Because remember, it is an international break between game weeks 11 and 12, and anything can happen between then and now. Is Fat Boy Jibs going on the lash? I had a few beers last night and I don't feel too bad right now. So enjoy your day, mate. Hopefully the hangover isn't too bad Sunday morning. Is double Liverpool defence okay this week? Yes. I don't think it's too bad. I actually think it's not a bad position to be in with Liverpool defenders. They are still one of the best defences in the league. No news on Cole Palmer, but I personally do think that he will get minutes. Would I sell Wood to Cunha? No. If you own Wood, keep Wood. If you have Cunha, I would keep Cunha. Pretty simple decision there, I think, on that one. What do you think? 2 free transfers, Palmer for Son, Smith over Bruno Fernandes, and Gabriel for 8 Nori for a -4. Game week 12, you are wildcarding. Okay, so first thing we need to remember, in seasons gone by, if you had 2 free transfers available and you're wildcarding the next week, it made complete sense to use the 2 free transfers, go for some 1-week punts, because once you wildcard the week after, you come back to 1 free transfer. It's different this year. If you were to keep your transfers, you'd wildcard in game week 12 and you'd actually come back into game week 13 with 3 free transfers, because you roll 1 this week and then of course you'd have 3 in game week 13. So that's the thing you need to ask yourself. The problem is if you're wildcarding in game week 12, then long term your team's probably well set. So you're not going to need all these transfers that have been accumulated in the bank. On the face of it, do I think Son is better than Palmer this week? Yes, especially because obviously Palmer's slight risk of minutes, but I also would argue Son's minutes are probably hovering between 70 and 75, so he isn't a guarantee. I do prefer Bruno over Smith Rowe, and I do prefer 8 Nori over Gabriel. Do I love it for a -4 though? I think the answer probably is no. So my question to you would be, could you potentially do the Gabriel to 8 Nori and Smith Rowe to Bruno Fernandes move, if you can do that, then maybe at the expense of the -4, just keep Cole Palmer in that sense. Because if you sell Palmer and you've accumulated value, then you have to buy him back at a more expensive price, and the fixtures long term are so damn good for Palmer. So keep putting the question in the chat, guys. Always appreciated. We will get to them. But I do want to get into my team right now. So let's take a look at this. So as I mentioned, wildcarded in game week 10. Sorry, I'm just making the screen a little bit better so it's a bit easier to view. Give me 2 seconds. Here we go. It might be a little bit easier to see the team. Okay, so wildcarded in game week 10, as we know, performance was okay. Decent amount of points, literally about 1 million. You can see the rank right at the top right there. Now, of course, going into this week, I would like to think that this team gets a green arrow because they're all at home, and I think I have some good differentials. Sells is the big decision right now. Currently, I have Sells at home against Newcastle, but I would argue that starting Fabianski over Sells is probably more of the fixture play, but I back Nottingham Forest defensively right now, and I do not back West Ham as a defence. So as of right now, with an hour 15 to go, or whatever it is, a bit longer actually, hour 45 to go, sorry, I'm currently leaning towards Sells, but I do think Fabianski is also a good play. I would have rather just Fabianski not have his place in the team because I wouldn't be questioning this Sells pick then, but it is what it is right now. I am questioning it because I actually have a playing goalkeeper on my bench, which I always hate. I don't get why people do it because it just stresses you out each and every week about what to do with your team. So in terms of the rest of the team, 8 Nori, Dalot and Trent, got no concerns about their minutes. I think they're really good picks this week. In terms of the midfield, the only debate that I have right now, obviously, is Son. I'm of the opinion that Cole Palmer is going to play, and even if he doesn't, I've got a really good backup, someone like a Raul Jimenez on the bench to come in for him with all the injuries that Crystal Palace currently have. And there is slight doubt about Garnacho, but there's no world that I'm selling Garnacho at home against Leicester, and I'm not going to be benching him either. So he, of course, will be starting, and Son is currently with the captaincy. And of course, I need to touch on the captaincy in a minute, which I will do so. In terms of the forwards, obviously I went for this 3 on the wildcard, which rotate really well. So this week I felt like Cunha and Visser were just obvious starts with their home games. Visser's minutes, a little bit of a concern, but I do think he will still start. And I know Brentford were really poor on Monday night, but I think at home they're a completely different beast. And I am hoping there will be a few goals in a Bournemouth team that don't really sit back. So hopefully that will allow some space for the likes of Mbeumo and Visser. For me, if that's a goal fest, that's happy days because it gets rid of the Brentford clean sheet and also benefits towards the attackers. Because if Brentford score 2 or 3 goals, you know Mbeumo and Visser are basically going to be the heart of all that good stuff. So as I mentioned, captaincy right now is the big one. So in terms of Son, his ownership is interesting, 7.4% owned. So one argument would be that just having him in himself is enough of a differential and I don't really have to go against him. We know that the minutes could potentially be deemed a little bit of a risk, but I think the fact he played 55 minutes against Villa, that is a very, very locked in substitution that they had for game week 10. The game state was 1-1. He had to come off based on the sports science. But then he plays 45 minutes against Galatasaray, which once again was a planned substitution at half-time to gain more minutes. So do we think he plays 60, 65 minutes? Now, I'm going to be very interested to see what people say in the chat here. So let's just get a quick poll up. How many minutes does Son play? So I don't think any of us think he plays less than 55, okay? So I will put 60 min on the dot, basically. Then we're going to do 60 to 70 mins, and then we're going to put 70 to 80 mins, and then 80 plus. Let's just put that in. So let me know what you think Son plays this game week. I think the fact he played 55 in game week 10, the fact he played against Galatasaray for 45 minutes, which was absolutely a planned substitution, I think personally he plays 75 minutes in this game, 75, 80 minutes at an absolute push. And for that reason, We have to remember Werner's out injured, Richarlison's out injured, Mikey Moore's out injured. They don't really have much options available to substitute him in the game. So I think Son gets good minutes. International break, remember, so it's not like Son needs to be rested for anything. He could be going away with the international team and getting injured. So Son don't owe him anything. The Spurs don't owe him anything. So for that reason, with my own thought of him getting 75, 80 minutes, I think captaincy is going to be on him. Of course, on reflection, if we have game week 11 happen and he only plays 65 minutes, then it is the bad choice. Because if you said to me right now, Son plays 65, I put this captaincy on Salah without even thinking about it. But again, part of the game is having your own thought process and your own assumptions on minutes. And as I spoke about, I think Son gets 75, 80. And for that reason, I have to put the captaincy on him because I think he is a much better option. And I also just don't think Villa get pumped again. Conceded 4 goals against Spurs. I just don't think they concede another 4 against Liverpool. I think they're going to be a bit more shrewd going into this game. So for that reason, Son's currently my captain. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Going to leave the team up here. Then we'll take a look at some of the underlying numbers. And of course, some top transfers going into the week. Bench Vandenberg or Lewis. I mean, I think if you own Lewis, I still would play him. Of course, I haven't really been on Twitter much this morning, so I will take a look to see if there's been any news regarding Lewis. A few predictors are saying that with the fact that there might be someone like a Walker playing at right back up against Matoma's 1v1 capabilities, it means that Lewis could play in the midfield. And if he does play in the midfield, then surely that makes him an even better option. So I think if I had Lewis and I was going to keep him, I probably would just have him in the team and start. Downgrade Garnacho to Ahmad and upgrade Anderson to 8-0. No, I would not be doing those moves at all because you have no guarantee that Garnacho is bench. You have no guarantee that Ahmad starts. Anderson's up against a Crystal Palace team with no Nketiah, no Eze, no Wharton, no Will Hughes. I would just leave it how it is right now. I don't think Garnacho to Ahmad is a good transfer at all because game week 12, Amorim comes in and he might hate Amad Diallo and then you're stuck with him in your team. So no, I would not make that move. It could look good for one game week. Long term, I think that's going to cause you problems in your team. Ben, who out of Salah, Son, Johnson, Solanke, Fernandes, Cunha for captain? Okay, so this is a good time for me to pop up this on your screens a minute to just have a look. So anybody that doesn't know, this is a graphic taken from Rob TFPL over on Twitter. Really good account, kind of gone really big over the last year. We've taken the data from betting markets, which is from SpreadX, and telling us basically what the bookies are saying. So in terms of numbers right now, Haaland projected to score 0.75 goals against Brighton. Solanke 0.68, and this is the updated version, by the way, as of this morning or last night, I believe. Then Son at 0.66 projected goals, Salah at 0.65, and then we have a little bit of a drop-off and we get into some of the people like Darwin, Højlund, Wood, Isak, Gakpo, Fernandes, Garnacho, etc. So if you are just looking at bookies' odds, projected goals, Haaland is still the man. Now, in terms of the options that you put up on your screen, having Solanke in your team means that I do think he is absolutely a pick. If I had a choice between Son or Solanke right now, if you said to me, Son plays 75, Solanke plays 90, I probably would put on Solanke. Just because of those guaranteed minutes. And when Son gets substituted, Solanke becomes the penalty taker. And that just improves him as an asset for those last 15 minutes. So I probably would have Solanke over Son. I'd have Cunha last, by the way. Of all of those, I think it's between Salah and Solanke. And I think it all comes down to what is your risk appetite. I think if you want to play safe, I would just put it on Salah and forget about it. But if you want to be a little bit different, I would put it on Solanke. But for those that are checking this out, it is a really good graphic. Now, there's a few others that he does put up on his page. Let me just refresh this to see that anything else has been put up. But this is a really, really good source of information. So this one here is really interested. Projected goals and clean sheet odds for the specific fixture. So you really want to pay attention to the ones that are really highlighted. So you can see here, the reason why I want a piece of this Spurs attack on my captaincy is because Spurs are projected to score 3 goals in this game against Ipswich. Ipswich, on the other hand, 1.03. So if you have a Spurs defender, this looks great this week. If you have a Spurs attacker, it looks great for goals. Take a look at Man United. Again, 2.5 projected goals and only 0.98 projected goals for Leicester. Again, if you have a a Man United attacker, great. And if you have a Man United defender, it looks really good this week. Other two games, Liverpool projected 2.3 and Villa only 0.98. That really is a testament to this Liverpool defence. So again, if you own Trent this week, doesn't look a bad play at all. And of course, if you want to go for the safe pick of Mo Salah, the numbers here are really, really good. And I probably would say the gap between the Liverpool game and the Spurs game is enough to probably say you could go for a Spurs attacker. But on the same side, I do think that the Liverpool game has enough here to say to yourself, you could just go for Mo Salah, knowing that there are going to be goals in this game. And I think Villa have proven to be pretty poor off the back of Champions League games this season. And I think there could be goals from Liverpool in general. Finally, Man City. Again, anybody's worried about owning Erling Haaland, it ain't a problem. 2.1 projected goals in that game. I think Brighton are going to give him a really good game, but that doesn't mean that Haaland isn't going to be having opportunities. I really think this is a brilliant game for managers that do own Erling Haaland, but I would put Mo Salah ahead of Erling Haaland in terms of my captaincy choice. So again, this is how it is looking right now, guys, in terms of the projected goals. I'll come back into some of the chat right now, but let me know if you want that graphic put back up. I will do so as soon as possible. I'll just leave my team up right now for you guys to check out. So just to give you an update, the only decision really I have left to make is Fabianski or Sells and captaincy Son or Salah. It's just all about whether I get a little bit of cold feet about Son's minutes, because as soon as I think they are sub 75, then it has to be Mo Salah as my captain. It has to be. Son captain gang assemble. Yes, currently I am in that gang, but we will see as we get to the deadline. Sell Smith Rowe or DCL. I probably be just selling Calvert-Lewin. I haven't had the pain of him, so I don't know what true pain feels like. But I will say everybody that I've spoken to hates him. Absolutely hates him. Salah and Solanke for Foden and Haaland. Again, I can't argue those moves at all. And it just comes down to it. Can Erling Haaland score a hat-trick this week? 100%. And you just need to remember that. You're in a position right now where if you sell Erling Haaland, you are taking a massive risk selling him because he is just an elite finisher. But I took that plunge last week, and am I scared this week? 100%. But could the combination that I own match Erling Haaland, if not better him? I feel like it can. So you are taking a risk, but I do like those moves, especially if they are for 2 free transfers. Bench one of Wood, Semenyo, Raul and Welbeck. Well, when we take a look at the actual fixtures, I always like to look at the players that I just think you cannot bench. So you can't bench Chris Wood at all. But I think the other three are really up for debate right now. So Raul up against a Crystal Palace team who got quite a lot of injuries. Welbeck by far has the toughest game. Semenyo is probably one of the best underlying numbers in terms of the midfielders. If I had to bench one right now, just because of the minutes, I probably would bench Raul Jimenez. I think Semenyo against his Brentford defence could do well. I think Welbeck with Brighton against a Man City team who are just leaking goals is a good pick. It's all about Raul versus Welbeck. I would start Welbeck over Raul, but let's be honest. If you are trying to play the fixture, it will be benching Welbeck. Embuemo captain, I don't think that's a bad pick at all. Fundles, Fabianski or Martinez. Thinking Fabianski, yes, definitely. I would go Fabianski. I don't think you need a debate there. If Martinez, and it's worth noting, if Martinez does keep a clean sheet, he will get the biggest points of the week because he will accumulate save points, bonus points, and he'll get a monster haul. But we saw this here in terms of the numbers. Liverpool projected 2.3 goals. Villa clean sheet doesn't look great, only 10%. I just think it makes sense to start Fabianski. For those that are wondering about West Ham, 28% chance of a clean sheet. Now, for someone like me, who also has someone like Sells, a 28% clean sheet for West Ham and only a 25% clean sheet for Forest. So, I mean, when you look at some of these games, Forest Newcastle just looks like a crap game. West Ham Everton has the making of a crap game. So it very much is the case of Fabianski versus Sells right now. And I think the closer we get to the deadline, I'll be more tempted to play Fabianski, I feel. That is my current predicament. But yeah, guys, let me know in the chat. Sorry, selfishly, I really want to know what your thoughts are. If you were had this team, who... And I'm only going to put this up for 2 minutes. So if you could vote, that'd be amazing, because I don't really want to dominate this on here. Who would you captain? So this is who would you captain in my team here. Would you go Son? Would you go Mbeumo? Or would you go Salah? Because that really is the only options here. Let me know your thoughts. I'm only going to leave it up for 2 minutes. I'm just a little bit curious who you would captain of those. Would you go Son? Would you go Salah? Or would you go Mbeumo? I wouldn't captain Cole Palmer because, of course, the yellow flag right now and no certainty about him. Apologies if I missed any questions. Please do repeat them and I'll try and get to them ASAP if you have. Just trying to get into the bulk of them here. I want to captain Bruno. What's your advice for me, Cabina? If you want to go Bruno, I have no problems with that whatsoever. I think that's absolutely fine. If you have that gut feeling, and I don't really want to be that kind of content creator, one of the people that does streams where I sit here and go, mate, you are so stupid. Like, I always feel like with fantasy and captaincy, some people just have that gut feeling. And if you have that gut feeling right now that Bruno Fernandes is your guy, go for it. I can't really put it off because of the Leicester game being such a great fixture. You've got your backing in terms of the actual numbers because Man United are projected to score 2.5. He's at the heart of everything good. Mate, I can't knock it at all. If you feel like that's good, I cannot go against that. Dr. Willie's saying, sell Van der Ven for Mazraoui or Hall. Okay, that's an interesting one because we got a little bit of similarities between the two. So Mazraoui, long term, is actually a great pick in terms of fixtures. If we take a look at the fixtures coming up right now. So Man United, we can see Leicester, Ipswich, Everton, then Arsenal, Forest, Spurs, City gets a little bit more difficult. Newcastle, on the other hand, Forest, West Ham, Palace, Liverpool, they're very indifferent. And I would argue Lewis Hall is great, but could be at the mercy of rotation at times. I think Mazraoui is the exciting pick, but I just don't really know what's going to happen once Amorim comes in. And that is the only reason why I'm hesitant to sit here and say Mazraoui. He could look great for this week. And if you're happy to take the punt, go there. But I think Lewis Hall might be a bit more of a safer pick because we have a bit more of a locked-in manager in the shape of Eddie Hall. I see we've got a super chat here from Boy in the Autumn. First and foremost, far too generous, my friend. Thank you so much. That is very, very kind. Thank you for the support. So, hi Nacho, Flecken, Gabriel, Josko Vardial, Lewis, Mikalenko, Mbeumo, Palmer, Bowen, interesting, Havertz, Erling Haaland, Wood, with Fabianski, Rodgers, Semenyo and Greaves on the bench. 2 free transfers, 0.6 million in the bank. Any suggestions? Again, my friend, thank you so much for the super chat there. So, the first debate is, of course, goalkeeper. So, again, Brentford defence, very hard to trust. If we're just looking at the bookies odds here, you can see Brentford chance of a clean sheet, 19%. And the other one that we were looking at as your goalkeeper was, of course, Fabianski. West Ham at a projection of 28. So just based on the bookies, I would say to you, Fabianski is probably the safer pick for a clean sheet. So that is the first debate that we need to have. Of course, if you are locked in on Flecken, keep it. But Brentford defence does scare me a little bit. And I do rate the Bournemouth attack. I think they could score in that game. Now, in terms of your rest of your team, I think Gabriel long-term is great. So even though it doesn't look good this week, I would keep him. I would keep Josko Vardial. Mikalenko is fine at that price point. In terms of your structure of your team, of course, you don't have any Mo Salah. You have a back four and you're playing 4-3-3. Havertz, Erling Haaland and Chris Wood. Havertz could be a brilliant option from game week 12 onwards. So again, it comes down to your structure of your team. The first thing I would say to you is, do you want Mo Salah? Because if you do, what you'd have to do in this team is do Erling Haaland down to a cheaper forward like a Cunha, and then of course you'll be upgrading one of your midfielders. Probably going to have to be Bowen, but I don't love it because of course you are having him as a bit more of a differential and upgrading to Mo Salah. That would be very tempting for me just to get Mo Salah in the team. But of course, if you're in a position right now where you actually like the Erling Haaland draft, and I really do like it as well for certain managers, then with that opportunity, I think Havertz is a really nice price point because you can easily in game week 12 go to someone like a Isak if you want to, like a Nicholas Jackson. So I wouldn't be in a rush to sell Havertz because I think that price point is going to be very valuable in a next game week. So I don't think there's any desperate transfer for your team. I think the big absentee is, of course, Mo Salah, and probably the lack of a forward in your team that could deliver in that Spurs game. So one alternative that you could do is maybe someone like a Kai Havertz down to Dominic Solanke for 1 game week and keep the other transfer in the bank. That is another consideration. So again, thank you so much, Super Chat, mate. Let me know your additional thoughts on top of what I mentioned, the few questions you need to answer. Do you want to stick with the Erling Haaland draft? If you do, then I would consider maybe Havertz to someone like a Dominic Solanke as not just a 1 week punt, but just really capitalising on this Spurs game. And then if you are looking to maybe navigate out of Erling Haaland, then Haaland down to somebody like Acuna is actually doable. And then going up from someone like a Jarrod Bowen, who, if you do have the funds, going from someone like a Rodgers to a Salah, but I doubt those funds will be available. So thanks again, mate, and please do pop the extras in the chat. Obviously, don't put a super chat on top of that, my friend. Best striker to buy. Okay, so best striker to buy long term, we need to get the fixtures up. So long term, I do think Cunha is good. I think Strand Larsen are good at that price point. I think Wood is always going to tick over really well, but I just think the Wolves assets are exciting. But we need to remember, this is Wolves. Like, they ain't world beaters. They're going to have tough games where they don't perform, and I think that is just going to be natural. So if you do buy Wolves attack, just remember you are buying Wolves, and they are not going to be winning each and every game week. I think Solanke's good, but when it comes to forwards, I think the time is going to come where we get these mid-price forwards / premiums. So when we take a look at game week 12 onwards, look at Aston Villa, Palace, Chelsea, Brentford, Southampton. Really good fixtures. Watkins is going to come onto the menu. Jax is going to come onto... Always do that, sorry. Jax is going to come onto the menu. Isak's going to come onto the menu. Even someone like a Højlund could. So I actually don't think it's the best week to jump on a striker unless it is a cheap one, because I think game week 12 is when a lot of us can have a big decision to make. Do we go on Watkins? Do we go on Isak? Do we go on Jackson? So I don't think it's the best week to be bringing a striker in. But for this game week, it's Solanke followed by Cunha in my eyes. Wow, sorry, I was so damn thirsty. Drinking orange juice today, which you cannot see because it's blended in with the background. And again, guys, if you are, I forgot to mention this, tuning in and you would like to subscribe if you're not already, I would really appreciate it. I think we're like 5 or so off hitting 18,700. That'd be really cool if we can hit that on this stream. So if you are watching right now, you're enjoying it. It'd be awesome to have you as a subscriber this season. But of course, if you're not enjoying it, no hard feelings whatsoever. I wouldn't subscribe to a channel that I don't enjoy either. So, of course, it all down to if you are enjoying the channel. So I'm going to put my team back up for those that are wondering. And for those that are asking, I'm in a position right now where I'm deliberating Son versus Salah captain and Sells versus Fabianski goalkeeper. Other than that, not really much else to decide. You guys have voted and you said 50% of you would go for Salah. 38% would go for Son. And again, I do want to bring this up here just to show you what the bookies are also saying, because I do rate bookie odds. I think it is quite important. We can see here Son and Salah basically neck and neck, which is very, very interesting. And I do think that makes it hard in this sense, because I think the problem is, sorry, I'm just rambling here. I think the problem is, I think Salah gets a lot more minutes than Son, and that's the reason why I'm a little bit like, maybe it does make sense to be a little bit more boring. Go for Mo Salah, knowing that I have someone like Son as a bit of a differential at only 7% owned. But if it goes big, and I've got Captain Son, then it's huge at 7% ownership. So very, very interesting right now what direction to take the team with the captaincy. And it feels like a big swing this week. It feels like it could be a big old swing. Start one, Lewis versus Dibbling versus Rodgers. I think I would go for Dibbling over Rodgers, and then it comes down to, do you think Lewis starts? And I probably would just go for Lewis. But if there are debates about him, I would start Dibbling. Dr. Willie saying, just realised you're a Blues fan. You are now my favourite FPL god. Thank you, my friend. Yes, Chelsea fan. Since the days of old Johnson, Hasselbank, Zola, all those boys back in the day. Berkrant saying, fellow Son captainer here. I'm currently on Son, but I could be tempted elsewhere if I do get a little bit cold feet about those minutes. Flip have the same goalkeeper dilemma. Rory is saying, yeah, I think right now we just want to back the better defence in Nottingham Forest. And I know Newcastle aren't the best on the road, but I do think it's a big fixture of West Ham. They need a reaction. Possibly no McNeil. Calvert-Lewin might play, so that's good for a West Ham clean sheet. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Which two of Mbeumo, Madueke, Gordon, Garnacho? To start, you have to start Mbeumo, 100%. I'd put Madueke on the bench because I rate the Arsenal defence. And then it comes down to Gordon versus Garnacho. I think Gordon gets guaranteed minutes, 90, but I think Garnacho has the better fixture. So I probably would play Garnacho and just have fingers crossed that he gets the minutes. Best striker under 8.5 million, apart from Cunha and Wood on wildcard. Okay, so just a reminder for those that are watching right now, just to put up the options available, because it's always handy actually not lying to you if I forget that there is a certain player at 8.5. Okay, so if we take a look at price here. So if you're looking at 8.5 under, like first and foremost, I think Alexander Isak is a player that doesn't look great here, but he looks so good for the foreseeable future. So I probably would have Alexander Isak right up there as my number one. He's starting to slowly find his fitness, and I think that's been reflected in some of the underlying numbers that he's been putting up. This period here, just a little bit ropey, and also then got injured here. So I think Alexander Isak could be right up there. Nicholas Jackson, but we need to remember, is one yellow card away from suspension, so he could be a problem. But equally, the fixtures are fantastic. I think his minutes are great. So if you want to save a bit, I think Nicholas Jackson. I would have both of those over Solanke because the fixtures are just a little bit more indifferent at times for Solanke. I think there's more value in Isak and obviously Nicholas Jackson. So that would be my priority. As of now, I still think Alexander Isak is the one that I would go for. Worth keeping Kai Havertz, thinking of going to Isak, one free transfer. Yeah, so this week, I don't think you have to rush it because I think Isak's got a really tricky fixture, of course, away against Nottingham Forest. Havertz, you know he's going to start. Well, I think he's going to start. He's been assessed, but I think he will start. So the problem with Havertz is if you keep him for this week, then fixtures are good long term. So it all comes down to what kind of structure you want. Some people want to keep Havertz, but then they also want Saka and they want a defender. Then they might want the double up. And Havertz might become a bit more of a problem in their teams. So I think it's quite a tricky one right now. I think the move of Havertz to Isak is just a little bit pointless this week because I back the Forest defence. And I would probably rather roll the transfer, go into game week 12 off the back of the international break, and then reassess on whether you want to, one, keep Kai Havertz, or two, sell him. And then you've got the opportunity to go to Isak. You've got the opportunity to go to Nicholas Jackson. You got more flexibility after that period. Boying also saying, I'm not that stuck on Haaland at all. If I'm not getting rid of him this week, it will be next to go to Salah in the midfield. Okay, so if you are, that sentence for me answers it all. So I need to put it out there. As always, caveat, Haaland can score a hat-trick in any single game. However, you're saying right now that if you don't make the move this week, you are going to be selling him to Mo Salah in the following game week. Well, if that's the case, I would get it done now. And the reason being is, I want the Aston Villa game. You look at the numbers here. Oh, Christ, where are they? Sorry, guys. I just thought I'd give it a big build up there, and it hasn't even popped up. You can see it here. The numbers are great for Salah this game week. And in terms of the actual matchup, really good once again for Liverpool at 2.3 projected goals. So if you're already in your head convinced yourself that you're going to do the Salah move next week, I'd get it done this week because you get this fixture as well. Yes, I think Haaland can go off against Brighton, but I personally think I'd rather, if I know I want Salah in game week 12, just get him in regardless for game week 11. So that's my personal opinion there. I would cut ties with Haaland to get Salah in. But like I said, how can I sit here and say to you Haaland isn't going to score because his numbers are just freakish? If I put him up right now, you saw the numbers in terms of like his projected goals. He is always, no matter his form, going to be top of the charts for projected points because he's just a monster. Look at it here. Per 90 minutes of all, let's put midfielders in. Per 90 minutes XG, and let's get rid of the people who haven't played any minutes. So let's do 500 plus. Haaland, 0.99 per 90 XG. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. His expected FPL points is 7.64, which is right up there as some of the best. The only problem is, look at who sits there. Expected FPL points for Mo Salah, 8.17. His actual is 9.57. So while his XG isn't as high as Erling Haaland's, we have to remember, extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet, and we're finding Mo Salah being very good on the bonus points. If we take a look at bonus points here between Salah and Erling Haaland, Mo Salah is generating 1.85 bonus points per 90, Erling Haaland 1.4. But if I cast your eyes to the one that is basically B bonus points, that's baseline bonus points, which means Haaland starts at 2.7 per 90, Mo Salah 8.64. So all Mo Salah has to do is get an attack and return, and he basically is picking up bonus points. Whereas Erling Haaland has to do a little bit more. He has to get a brace to really be in the mix sometimes, or the winning goals. So that is why I think it is really, really important to be in a position where you know what you're getting. You are taking a huge risk by selling somebody like a Erling Haaland, but you know that there is upside in Mo Salah there. Let's get back to my team a minute. Let me pop that up. And I'm just going to literally be quiet. I'm just going to like quickly check Twitter. So I do apologize. I'm just going to have a quick look, make sure I'm not missing anything right now. So we have got what is being said right now. Nothing. That wasn't really that fun. Nothing right now as it seems. Nothing right now. Can't see anything. Is what it is. I was hoping we might get some news, but I just don't see it. But we still got time. We still got time, people. Still got time. Okay. Sorry, I was just checking to see if there's anything on Twitter. And again, if you are enjoying it, guys, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. I think we're a couple away from 18,700, which would be awesome if we could hit that. Thoughts on my super differential captain, Johnson SB. If you want to go for Johnson, I cannot knock it. Just because, end of the day, Spurs are so high for points this week. So I do think he is a great option. Now, like I said, I'm going to end the poll there. But you guys are really not helping the situation, as you are saying that Mo Salah should be the captain. And I think the big thing for me right now is, I think I'm just overthinking it. I think having Son in himself is possibly just a good enough differential. Now, would Son points propel me through the ranks 100%? And when we take a look at the home games, home against Everton, 16-pointer. Home against Arsenal is home against Arsenal, is what it is. Home against Brentford, 10-pointer. Home against West Ham, 8-pointer. Home against Villa, 4-pointer, only played 55 minutes. When the guy plays at home, the guy does well. The man does well when he's at home. And Ipswich are one of the worst defences in the league. But could Spurs just do a Spurs performance and drop an absolute all-time clanger against Ipswich? They could. But they rested so many of their big boys in the main game. Still lots to debate. But I will be locking it in very, very soon because I can't be umming and ahhing about all this. I've got to get it locked in. Just want to check there is anything going on right now. I don't think there is. No, I can't see anything. No. Okay. Guys, I'm going to come back to the chat a minute. So we got just transferred Son in for Palmer. Thoughts? Ooh, I like it for this game week, but just remember, Palmer's fixtures long term, and anybody that is debating it with Cole Palmer is this looks sumptuous, and you're going to want him back in. So just be a little bit cautious of that, my friend. Start sells of Fabianski. As of right now, I have got sells in goal just because I back the Forest defence more than that of West Ham's. But we have to remember Everton have their own problems right now, and maybe just going for Fabianski is the route to go for all points. I don't know right now which one I do prefer. I feel like sells is the logical pick, but Fabianski feels like the high upside pick at times. DCL and Palmer for Isak and Bruno. I like the DCL move, definitely. I just don't love the idea of selling Palmer. I've said about this. If you think he is going to not play, then crack on. I would do it 100%. But, of course, the problem is Palmer back into your teams is going to be very difficult to navigate. I probably wouldn't. Because I think Isak's not a great pick this week either. Super chat from Raniel. Thank you, my friend. Very, 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 very generous. Thank you. Haaland to Salah, Palmer and Saka. Haaland to Salah, Palmer and Saka next week option. Haaland to Salah, Palmer and Saka next week option. Okay, so Raniel, don't put another super chat. That's generous enough as it is, my friend. Can you give a bit more context in terms of, you're saying Haaland to Salah, but who are you doing Haaland to? Because, of course, you can't go Haaland to Salah because one's a forward, one's a midfielder. So let me know who you're debating Haaland to. Sorry, because it says Haaland to Salah, Palmer and Saka next week opinion. So are you saying who would I prioritise out of those three? Because if it is a case of Haaland down to a cheaper and then go in for one of those three, I probably would say Cole Palmer because of the long-term pick and his fixtures being so fantastic, being the talisman on penalties. I think because he's cheaper than Mo Salah as well, I just think you can do more with the money. But let me know in the chat what you mean about Haaland to who. I think who is the person you're going down to, or are you asking who to go to? Have you considered starting Raul over Palmer? Gabor, it's a good pick, but I would kick myself if Cole Palmer comes out, starts for Chelsea, gets a penalty and scores. So Renial saying it would be a cheap forward and I would bring in all three. Wow, okay. And you're going to do it next week. If you can do that next week, part of free transfers, I think that's a fantastic setup, because I'm not saying like mine's a fantastic setup, but that's basically what my team is, because we've got Mo Salah, Cole Palmer, and Son will become Saka the following game week. So obviously I do think that's a good move, because I kind of had the same team in that sense. And in terms of a cheap forward, I still think someone like a Cunha is fantastic, but I also think someone like a Welbeck is going to come back on the radar for the team. So, yeah, I think that is a really good move next week for your team. Havertz to Højlund or Isak for 3-week punt. Havertz to Højlund or Isak for a 3-week punt. So, in terms of fixtures, it's Højlund. But we have no idea what's going to happen once Amorim comes in. So for that reason, I'm going to say Isak. But what I will say to you is, there's a big price difference. There's like 1.5 million between the two. So if you go Højlund, what are you also going to do the 1.5 million? If that then improves someone else in your team, for example, let's say the 1.5 million allows you to upgrade a cheap midfielder to a playing midfielder or a better version, then happy days. That might be the choice. But you need to remember you're taking a real big risk with Højlund. And I think I'd rather go for Isak, knowing that I can then come down to any of the cheap forwards if all of a sudden Højlund becomes the inevitable pick. So I think Isak is the choice. But what I will say is, I don't love him for this particular week. Boy in the Autumn saying, what do you think about Haaland to Evan Nielsen and Rodgers to Salah? Okay, so Evan Nielsen definitely on the radar. I do think he is a good pick, but we are seeing him get substituted early, around the 75th, 80th minute. So just remember, you are bringing in a player that isn't usually going to complete 90 minutes. And that is my only concern about Evan Nielsen. Of course, Rodgers to Salah, I'm a big fan of that transfer. What do I think about triple captain Solanke? I think if you've held off this long, I probably would wait and keep it for later on in the season when there is a bit more of a better option in terms of a midfielder and even the potential of a double game week. But like I tell everybody, if you're sat there right now and you have that gut feeling that triple captain in Solanke is the way to go, I do not want to be that guy who sits here and tells you not to do it. So if you feel like that's the play, my friend, I would go for it. But I just don't think I've got that compelled nature to say yes on that one. Would you play Flecken or Fabianski? I probably would go Fabianski because I prefer the Everton attack for clean sheets as opposed to the Bournemouth attack. I think Bournemouth can score goals. And also, like I said, just as like a reference point as well, because I am starting to use this by Rob T FPL. In terms of clean sheet odds here, you're asking between Brentford and the West Ham defence. Well, Brentford has 19% chance of a clean sheet, West Ham 28. And again, the more I look at that, the more I think to myself, maybe is Fabianski the choice over someone like a, I don't know. I don't know which one to go for. Solanke or Cunha for this game week, only Solanke. If you're just going for this one game week, it would be him. 100%. I think Solanke has a real high ceiling this week. Okay, so just a quick reminder on my team. Basically, the only decision I have is I'm just going to change it just to see how it feels. The problem is, I'm just going to save it for now. Do I really need to take the risk on Mo Salah? That is my only thing. It's like, I've got Son. Now, the way I look at it is, Salah's ownership is going to be massive. Like, Salah's ownership is going to be monstrous this week with the captaincy. So, if I go for captain Son, best case scenario, Son gets a 12-pointer, Salah blanks, and it's obviously a brilliant day at the office. Worst case scenario, Son goes off after 70 because he's got fatigue off the back of lack of fitness. And then all of a sudden, Salah goes off and his ownership, which is going to be 150% effective ownership, is going to be through the roof. That's my only concern right now. That's my major. Maybe just playing it safe at my rank. Having Son as my differential, Salah as my captaincy is kind of like my warm blanket, almost the Cole Palmer blanket. Knowing that then the Son points, I'm still getting huge gain from them. Huge gain. Because let me get up. A really good site, I don't know if it's actually come into effect yet, is Live FPL. But I don't think it will be like updated for this week. So I'm pretty done with stuff like this. I do apologize. I'm just trying to get it up before I show you on screens. It's only reflecting on the previous game week. So it's like, I don't actually know how to like assess it going into this week. We'll leave it. That doesn't work. Basically what I'm trying to say is, I feel like I'm in a spot right now where if I go for Captain Son, there is a real high ceiling. There's also, I could get really burnt if he comes off early and Salah goes big. Whereas if I go Captain Salah, if he goes off, happy days, I've got the captaincy points and I kind of expected him to do well. And then if Son does well, I'll just be happy because Son's gone off and not many people own him. It's game week 11. I think if it was game week 37, I would captain Son. But I think it's going to be Mo Salah. Sorry guys, I'm on a bit of a midlife crisis. Final poll of a selfish opinion is going to be which one? It's just going to be which one? Which one? Guys, just which one? Salah or Son? My dog's come in to say hi. Hello, mate. Salah or Son? Let me just see what my dog wants a minute. Winnie, come here. Come here, shall I show you? Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh. My dog's come to say hi. She's... So, just put a quick post. Salah or Son? This is going to be a 30-second poll. So if you can rinse the poll right now, it'd be massively appreciated. And my dog says hi. She's coming in. Let me know which one. Like I said, my quick thought process while people are voting is Son, huge upside. But the problem is if Salah goes off as well, then I just think there are problems. Because I'm going to be kicking myself thinking, oh my God, 180% owned Salah, going to be problems. But Son is just so much upside if it goes off. But if I just go Salah and Son does well, am I just getting the best of both worlds? I'm getting the differential points from Son as just a general pick. And I've also got Salah for captaincy who can just go there. So, yeah, my dog's like side-eyeing the camera. I apologise for anyone's getting creeped out by her. Why are you breathing like Darth Vader? So, yeah, 55% are going for Salah right now. I think I might go Salah. You guys have decided it for me. I'm going to update people now, just a heads up. And the final one, which to start, Fabi or Sells. Again, 30-second quick poll. Blitz it in, and then, guys, what I want to do is get through some more questions and all. I might just have to put my dog down a minute. You okay? Okay, I'll put you down. Ready? Oh, God. Hang on a sec. There you go. Whoa. There you go. Where's she gone? Okay. Sells or Fabianski? That is the final decision. I think I'm going to bottle it. I'm going to put the captaincy on Salah. 70% are saying Sells. Wow, wow, wow. And again, when we look at the bookies odds, we can see here, it is backing Fabianski as opposed to Sells. But I do back the Forest defence more than the West Ham one. 62% are going for Sells. Those are asking about Palmer. No news on Palmer, which is a bit frustrating. I think we're probably in a spot where we're going to get nothing between now and then. I'll be very surprised if we get any news. And a reminder, it's just under an hour now until the deadline. We're into that hour stage now, so it's getting a bit tasty. It's getting a little bit tasty. But yeah, I can't see anything here. I think I might... Okay, 59% saying Sells. I feel like Sells probably is the safer pick of the two because West Ham are garbage. So I think I might go like this. This is probably my final team. Sells in goal, Salah with that. If we take a look at actual like numbers for Newcastle away from home, just finally, as a team, home and away, in terms of XG per 90 minutes, away from home, Newcastle 1.63. Not bad at all, to be honest with you. That's actually not bad numbers. Newcastle's numbers are not too bad, whereas Everton, away from home, 1.33. Now, when we take a look at defence at home, defending, expected clean sheet at home, this is. Wow. Well, expected goals conceded at home, West Ham, 2.1. 2.1. If we take a look at Forest, 0.97. 0.97. I'm just going to stick with Sells. There's nothing to suggest West Ham are good defensively. I'm happy with Sells. If Fabianski comes in clutch with a clean sheet, it is what it is. I'm just going to back Sells. They are the better defence. Yes, Newcastle are a better attack, but I back Forest right now. I think they're a good team. This website is called Fantasy Football Fix. I really do recommend checking it out. So just to update you guys, I'm just going to update other people right now on like Patreon and stuff. That I'm pretty confident is what we're going to go for. I really want to go for Son captain, but I'm just a little bit scared right now. So I'm gonna go for that, I think. I'm just gonna post it on the members chat a minute. Let me just post it in. Sorry guys for the quiet section. I'm just trying to... Is anyone else like awful at doing two things at once? I can't like do something and also like chit chat. I'm really bad at it. Cool. Salah captain. And I'm just going to go for that. And I'm just going to post it on the Patreons a minute. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Apologies. Cool. Done. Sorry, guys. I was just updating everyone there. Right. News on Havertz's injury? Nothing, unfortunately, because they play on Sunday. Just a little bit of a less chance we're going to get anything. 8 Nori or Hall to buy. I think Hall is really interesting, but I just think 8 Nori is very, very tasty. Would you captain Solanke or Haaland? I think you have Haaland. I think I would still captain him. Otherwise, I'll be saying, why are you keeping him? £15 million asset, and you're not captaining him. I just think you have to captain Haaland. Son without captaincy against Ipswich. This is why you brought him in. Yeah, Gary, exactly. This is it. I feel like his minutes are great, but I've got a lot of people in my ear saying his minutes are still going to be very ropey. Flecken or Fabianski and Gabriel or Vandenberg. I probably would start Fabianski over Flecken. And I probably would start Gabriel over Vandenberg. Just because that threat from set pieces. They will score a set piece versus Chelsea. I'm almost certain of it. Would I sell 8 Nori for Saliba? It looks good this week. But the following game week, I think you're going to want him straight back in. Cockapoo is my dog. Yeah, Cockapoo. Eventful dog. Fabianski or Raya. I'm seeing a lot of people with this decision go for it. I still bat Raya. What's up, Nacho? Worth getting rid of DCL this week if it costs you a hit in game week 12, where I look to sell Haaland and Rodgers for Isak and Palmer. DCL would still be in my team in that case. Thoughts? Well, in terms of the fixtures for Everton, I haven't actually owned an Everton asset like all season, so I need to actually I never like look at their fixtures. If we take a look at what they've got ahead, very hard fixtures after that point. So I think probably in this case, I would be saying to you, would I do DCL for a hit this week? Probably not. I wouldn't do him for a hit this week. I don't think there are many that could replicate it. But if you are going to do it, then I would be trying to get in someone like a Cunha, most probably. So a lot of people saying, why are we all against the Son captaincy now? And I know exactly what you mean. Because it is all part and parcel of the game, isn't it? Of having a bit of fun. The only reason why I'm a little bit leaning against it right now for people that are watching right now, because I spoke about this, how Son was going to be my absolute pick. I brought him in on my wildcard with the assumption that he would get 90 minutes. And I think right now, the opinion of a lot of people is that Son's minutes are at risk. And I think 70 minutes is probably the expectation right now. Remember, 55 minutes in game week 10, 45 minutes against Galatasaray. So I think he gets closer to 80, but a lot of people's assumption is going to be 70. And I can't knock it either if that was to happen. So it all comes down to what your picture is. Now, because it's only game week 11, I think I have a slightly different kind of risk appetite to what I would at the end of the season. And I'm just thinking about what could happen this game week. So If Son goes off, gets a 10-pointer, and I put him as captain, happy days. And then if Salah goes off, of course, I basically am hoping that Salah gets 0 points because his effective ownership is going to be over 100%, and then I gain nothing from him. So we need to remember, if you don't captain Salah this week, then you basically are hoping he gets 0 points because every point that he incurs is basically going to be against you in the field because his effective ownership will be over 100%. Whereas, do I think Mo Salah is a great captaincy pick? Yes. When we take a look at the numbers in terms of the bookies odds, yes, Spurs are projected 3 goals, but Liverpool projected 2.3. When we also take a look at the general numbers for the player, again, this is all just taken from Rob T on FPL. And again, this isn't the gospel. This isn't gospel. It's just another narrative that we can paint because we're all trying to predict the future and we don't actually know what's going to happen. All it could take is Aston Villa, a Liverpool red card, Ipswich go down to 10 men, Son bags a hat-trick, Salah goes off because they have to accommodate, reconcile a lead. Anything can happen, but Son projected 0.66 goals, Salah at 0.65. Now, when we take into account, for example, then, let's say Son plays 70, Mo Salah plays 90. Then it starts to get a little bit more difficult because then I say to myself, it literally is a split between the two, and I'm adding 10, 15 minutes extra in terms of Salah's minutes. Then it starts to get really close. And that's when, unfortunately for me, effective ownership does come into the equation. So scenario A, Son captain, does amazing, and then Salah blanks. That is the best case scenario, okay? Option 2, I captain Son. He doesn't do well. Salah does well. Terrible, because his ownership is over 100% and it will really hurt my rank. Option 3, I captain Salah. I get his points. Son does well. I get his points. So it's a win-win. I get the Salah points and I get both. So it's great. And for that reason, I think Salah is just the safer pick. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Am I a wimp? I think I am a little bit of a wimp this week. Start Lewis or Gabriel. I would start Gabriel because I just have no guarantee of Lewis's minutes right now based on some people, what they are saying. Bench Palmer, Wood, Semenyo or Raul. Okay, so it comes down to it. I think if you keep Palmer, you have to start him because you either sell him or you start him. You don't bench him. You have to start Wood. So it's down to Semenyo versus Raul. And I think a lot of people right now are saying with the Crystal Palace injuries, Raul was probably the better start and potential on penalties. So I probably would say Raul and bench Semenyo. Ross, love the content, mate. Thank you, mate. Would you hold or sell Luis Diaz this week? So it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult in that situation because Luis Diaz, obviously off the back of his performance, you say to yourself, oh my God, like hat-trick midweek, that means he starts. There's no guarantees he starts. I think Slot came out and said that he picked Luis Diaz because he's a slightly different profile to Darwin Núñez in terms of physicality against that Leverkusen defence. So for that reason, I think Luis Diaz isn't a guaranteed lock. So would I hold him or sell him? I think I probably would sell him because there's just such a headache each and every game week for you, and you're not going to know whether he starts or not. But then again, I would say to you, Ross, does rolling the transfer this week and just taking the punt on Luis Diaz actually then just improve your team with 2 free transfers in the following week after the international break? It's all about longer term planning and saying to yourself, while Diaz is a risk, does rolling the transfer actually allow me to have more flexibility in the future game week? Now, for those that are asking about the team, just going to put it up here because I am pretty much locked in and I am going to have to end this stream in a minute. I apologise. So just to run it through, Sells versus Fabianski is very, very tight. But end of the day, I think I'll just kick myself if Fabianski, if I start him and West Ham just continue to be terrible defensively. And I think I'm just going to be annoyed at myself because I know the Forest defence is good, that I just bench someone like a Sells. So if Fabianski keeps a clean sheet, it is what it is. I'm happy to have Sells this week. Defence picks itself. Nori, Dallo, Trent. Surely we get 1 clean sheet there. Surely. In terms of the midfielders, we've spoken about this. I'm keeping Palmer. unless I got told that he is going to be out, I'm keeping him 100%. Garnacho is a doubt, but there's no world I can bench him right now unless we had clarification that he is going to be benched. When are Man United kicking off? They are kicking off Sunday, so we're going to get nothing. So if you own Garnacho, yes, I am worried about minutes, but I cannot be benching him right now. So he is going to be absolutely in the team. And I just hope that he starts. And Mbeumo obviously in the team. Could be a captaincy pick, but I just haven't really been on my radar. And then, of course, Son versus Salah. If you've been tuning into this, you'll know that I've been on Son all week. But just the way I'm weighing it up right now, I just feel like Salah is just the sensible choice. And Son could just be a differential in his own right. And the other two, I think, pick themselves. Now, a lot of people are saying, why aren't you starting Raul Jimenez? My question to you would be, who would you start him over in this team? I'm not going to start him over Garnacho because kind of a bit of pride. I brought Garnacho in on a wild card for this fixture. So that's the reason why he is going to start over Raul. So that's going to be the team, guys. If I do change the captaincy, I will let you know in the community section on my YouTube page. So it's another good reason to subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to wrap it up here, guys, so I do need to dash, but have a fantastic game week. I really hope it does pay off. Because it's the international break, what I am going to try and do is either a video Sunday night or a stream, one of the two, because I think a lot of us are going to switch off from FPL next week in the first week of the international break. So we're going to wrap it up there, because I do need to dash. I apologise. Have an amazing week, guys. Have a great game week. Remember, don't let FPL dictate your actual weekend. Go out, enjoy yourself, have an amazing time. And I'll see you Sunday evening where hopefully we've got some sort of green arrow with this team. I mean, look at it. Surely this team, with all home fixtures, delivers one of these guys with a double-digit haul. Fingers crossed. Okay, guys, have an amazing one. I will see you.